Hi, I'm Matt Robeson on The Takedown, and I just wrapped up a fascinating interview with Congressman Jamie Raskin, who you probably know as the manager of the second Trump impeachment trial, and of course, as a member of the January 6th investigation committee. As the committee is heading into its final hearings, we wanted to ask him about what we've learned and what's going to happen next in dealing with the aftermath of the insurrection and the future of Donald Trump and his co-conspirators. One thing I really wanted to know is, in his almost 2 years of work, what has he found out that the media and the public maybe hasn't paid enough attention to? You'll never believe what evil global superpower popped up.
People are not as aware as perhaps they should be about how there were different foreign assets who were in that crowd. The New York Times did profile one guy who was clearly very wrapped up with Russian oligarchs and their paymaster. And he spent time in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He bought a house in cash for $500,000, which became a hotbed of organizing among domestic violent extremist forces. And from there, they left. They brought buses down to Washington. That guy, he filmed what was taking place inside the Capitol. He tried to make it look like the police were attacking the mob as opposed to the mob attacking the police. They released it on Russia Today, and this guy has vanished into Russia and abandoned the house that he bought in Lancaster County, although I think it's still being used by some of the neo-Nazi forces that he attracted there.
Speaking of shadowy forces trying to attack American democracy, the big news last week came from big lie ringleader Ginny Thomas, who testified to the January 6th committee that despite the stunning mountain of evidence debunking the big lie, including from 8 Trump-appointed federal judges, she still believes it. So that led me to ask Congressman Raskin this delicate question. I was almost going to just ask you straight out, do you think that Ginny Thomas is in her right mind? I won't put you in that position necessarily unless you'd like to comment on that, but maybe I could ask, please.
Yeah. I don't want to or need to make any kind of judgment about that. She has adopted a cultish way of thinking. She actually was in a religious cult and has spoken about that and about what it meant to get out and to be deprogrammed. And I hope she can essentially go through the exact same experience getting out of the cult of Donald Trump.
Now, obviously, that's a very sober-minded and empathetic response from the congressman, although when we asked about how worried we should all be about the cult mentality of the Republican Party, he had this surprisingly spicy comment about his Republican colleagues in Congress.
They're acting like members of a closed system religious cult, like the Church of Scientology or the Moonies. And I've told my Republican colleagues that when we get through this period, they're going to be fit only for sleeping on basement floors and selling incense and flowers at Dulles Airport. That's their destiny after the way they have suspended their use of their minds, their critical thinking skills. These people are members of Congress who bow down to an absolute con man and hustler like Donald Trump.
Of course, what you probably want to know is the big question, and he wasn't willing to be pinned down on that one. Do you expect to see indictments of senior White House officials and other ringleaders up to and including Donald Trump?
I don't want to try to micromanage what they do and so on. I think it's important for us in our report to list out and refer to the people in the Congress and whoever else is interested in listening out there at the state level, the federal level, law enforcement, the offenses we've seen. But they are 10 times more equipped to find those crimes than we are. And they're 10 times better able to make the judgment about when and where those things should be tried. So, I'm not a prosecutor now at this point in my career. I'm a member of Congress, and my job in this capacity is to tell the truth to the American people, tell the truth to Congress and the DOJ, to make the legislative recommendations we need to fortify ourselves against future fascist attacks on our government, and then let the criminal law enforcement function do their thing.
But here's the thing. The one thing that's the most important to understand in this whole sordid history, and the one thing that we can't stop reminding the American people about,
Donald Trump is operating at the highest level of culpability. He knew everything that was taking place in general terms, and he deliberately, purposefully intended for all of that to take place. Does anybody in America believe that any of this would have happened, from the legislatures to Secretary of State Raffensperger to the assault on the Capitol and Vice President Pence and the Congress, the unleashing the insurrection? Does anybody believe that any of that would have happened except for Donald Trump's determination to make it happen?
So make no mistake, everything that we've been living through sprang from the fevered mind of one sick man, and we're still living with it because of the weird cult that runs half our government and continues to bow down to him. We're going to post the full interview right here on The Takedown. There's a lot more in there, so please subscribe to catch the whole thing. And if you prefer to catch your podcast just on audio or on apps, then subscribe to Beyond Politics wherever you get your podcasts.